Hey, True Believers England teen here, and it's Top 10 Tuesday again. So we are talking this time around about the worst stories, the worst comic book stories ever written by the best comic book writers. So along for the ride, of course, we have Eric Breen.
How's it going, everyone?
And, of course, we got Howler Mouse. Glad you can make it again this week.
Fun, fun, fun.
Yeah, it was a good time last week. I'm looking forward to it this time. Now, I understand we're going a little dark here. We're going a little negative, but it's all in good fun. And here's the thing. If you like these stories, by all means, feel free to argue. We're not always right. I'm only 98% right. I kind of figure. More like 99.9, but that's just bragging. But if, by all means, if you agree, disagree, let us know in the chat, in the comments, the whole 9 yards. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. So what I said that this is going to be the worst stories from the best writers. So these writers at least have to have one story you can point out and go, that's a great story. So along with that one rule right there, what is the number 10? What are you going to go for there, Eric?
I'm going to start with Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man issue 4 from the Howard Mackie and John Byrne run.
All righty.
Now, the reason why I'm choosing that one is it's on the surface, it's just a regular story, just nothing really set it apart, but it involves an operation from Silver Sable's Wild Pack where Sandman's hired to guard a senator, and unbeknownst to the senator, or we think at the time, or Spider-Man, who's worked with the Wild Pack before, Sandman has turned bad. And that's why I list this as one of those stories. John Byrne's a great writer, but he has his things that he likes to do where he has, he has a set way of thinking, just like Mark Waid, and Jeff Johns were fans of Clark Kent's Silver Age persona, so they worked to undo, Byrne and Wolfman's stuff. John Byrne has his ways of thinking about certain characters, and in his mind, since Sandman was a bad guy, he had to become a bad guy again. So just completely out of the blue, he turns on Spider-Man, and then basically turns on the Trapster, who's also involved in this story, and he drops a line saying, "Do you think I went straight, got a full presidential pardon, a membership in the Avengers line, just to have you blow it for me?" And then by the end of the issue, he's decided he has to kill Spider-Man, the Fantastic Four, the Senator, and the Fantastic Four and Spider-Man do end up stopping him. And then we find out that Senator Ward was in on it, but and the Wizard is behind the plot to basically to make him, Senator Ward, a sympathetic figure. But the part of the story that ruined it for me was Sandman's face turn was done so well. It started in an issue of Marvel 2-in-1 where he has beers with the Thing, and then it continued into a team up, and then he was an Avenger, a regular character in Silver Sable, and as the story's going on, you've been saying the Thing's going, well, I never really believed that he turned, that I didn't really believe what he said he was turning good, blah blah. And it's just like, to me, it was just like John Byrne basically just saying, it's got to be the way it was when I was a kid reading. And, so it just wiped out a lot of character growth of the Sandman, and he just became another cookie cutter villain again.
Yeah, that old Byrne going back to the roots of the character, in his mind. I could see it.
It worked. A lot of times it worked great, but this was not one of those times.
Well, here's the thing. In the 90s, they were doing that to a lot of villains. And I didn't mind because, like you said, the Sandman heel turn to hero was actually done well. But then it just started becoming what they were doing. Let's make Magneto a hero, which he was never, villain. But then let's do Sabretooth for a little bit of all characters. And after a while, I was really fine with having our villains back. Thankfully, though, I've skipped this one. I was strictly DC at this point.
I mean, I completely forgotten that. I mean, I was around, I was getting the Spider-Man back then. I had the first couple issues. But the way, after seeing the cover there a minute ago, I think in my mind when it came out, those are the most horrible Fantastic Four costumes. And it was a little bit of a stunt to have John Byrne back on the Fantastic Four, which I think is why they were having to push it. And it sounds like they didn't have a story. You know what I mean? Like, it's get Byrne back on Fantastic Four, get some of those fans back. Everybody kind of wanted him back on the Fantastic Four, there for a while.
And I think that since the Sandman's face turn was in the 80s, they used to plan things out. It's like the writers would play the long game. It took some time to complete. It wasn't like the second issue he was a good guy, all had been forgotten. I mean, Spider-Man was very hesitant to work with him. I mean, he had to earn the respect. And
it's a ghost. Don't worry about it.
I mean, okay. He had to return. He had to earn the respect of his former adversaries, and and there was no hint leading up to it. It's just like John Byrne just said, "Okay, you're bad again."
Well, I'd be interested to know if Tom DeFalco was editor-in-chief on it, because after Shooter left and Tom DeFalco stepped in, it was fast and loose. It was pretty much like anything goes. And if you really pay attention to that era, especially what was the big crossover going in then? There was a Fantastic Four issue with X Factor in it. And I mean, that was my wake-up call, that I was like, things have changed at Marvel.
Days of Future Present?
No, I'm thinking it was Acts of Vengeance or something. I'm not sure.
Oh, that was the. I got you.
Yeah, it was something.
All I know is that whoever the editor was should have been fired for putting the Thing in a bib.
Yeah, to Shooter's credit, everybody had to have the story, and with the Falco, it was like, have fun. He was just, Shooter's gone, have fun. That's what it felt like.
Maranya saying one of the few redeeming qualities of Raimi's Spider-Man 3 was giving Sandman a tragic backstory and understandable motivation for what he did, and hearing about this heel turn by Byrne says, no.
It's like bad wrestling. Yeah.
It's good draw there. How about you, Howler? What is your number 9?
Well, I'm just going to go with this here. It's fresh up my mind. Take my list of things I couldn't find. But I don't know if a lot of people remember this. This is by James Robinson. It's called Cry for Thunder. Wait a minute, excuse me.
Cry for Justice, maybe?
Justice. Yeah. And, for people who may not know who James Robinson is, he had Golden Age, a miniseries where he came on the scene that was highly acclaimed. His Sandman series got the omnibus treatment. He's actually...
Or Starman?
Yeah, for Starman. And... he's done some screenplays. He had a movie called Comic Book Villains. He actually did the screenplay for League of Extraordinary Gentlemen before they even knew what Alan Moore's series was. Somebody just called him up and said, what are you working on? And he gave him a brief outline, and they went, hey, James, go for it. That's why the movie is so different from it. Now, when this book came out, James Robinson, I was actually excited. He was coming back from Hollywood or whatever. So he gets back on here. He gets this mini series. And we're in between Final Crisis and Blackest Night. So the concept is Green Lantern and Green Arrow are decided they're out for vengeance because everybody thinks Batman and Martian Manhunter are dead from Final Crisis. And they're fighting with the Justice League and all this stuff. And then it's like, to me, the writing was so bad in it that I was like, what are they doing? None of the characters acted like they were doing. We just had Hal Jordan come back when Rebirth by Jeff Johns and stuff. And there's no way he would go back to being dark. It didn't fit in at the time if you're around that era. So I kind of figure somebody along the line knew that after Blackest Night, they were going to go DC 52. And whenever you have a company doing a reboot or whatever, usually 6 months to a year worth of books coming out, you might as well just skip them because they won't matter. And that's what this is.
Yep.
He ended up bringing in a bunch of characters that they didn't fit together. It wasn't about being a Justice League. It was all about, hey, who wants to go out here and we're going to go after people authority style, Warren Ellis's authority. That's what it felt like. And this thing was just pointless. It was dark to be dark. Roy Harper, I had the page open. Roy Harper ended up having his arm ripped off on the satellite. And, the big villain was Prometheus, who was disguised as, I think, Captain Marvel Jr. when he was calling himself Shazam or something. And here's the funny thing. People the people who read this in the comic book magazines at the time or whatever we had here,
the hard copies.
They praised the artwork, and this thing was actually nominated for an Eisner.
Holy Toledo.
Yes.
I thought the Eisner did some bad books these days, but damn.
Yeah. The atoms in it. I mean, it was just, I mean, like the artwork was just, you know, wonderful. It reminds me of Mark Texera painted work.
Pop that up again.
Yeah. Well, but it was just gratuitous. And when the thing did, Roy Harper pretty much gets his arm ripped off. And I think the last page is right before you get to the last page, Prometheus takes an arrow to the head right between the eyes.
Mm-hmm.
You turn the page and there's Green Arrow sitting there all proud of himself going, justice. It was corny and it was so dark you couldn't cheer for those heroic moments. You know, I'm like, none of these characters should have been together. I mean, I was just reading this and I was like, this is his big comeback. You know, I was like, what?
There you go. And James Robin, you're right. You brought up the Golden Age, and it's an amazing story. If you've never had a chance to read it, that's one to read. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about these great writers who've done some great stories that just either fell or it marked the fall or the continuation of. I don't know. That's sad to hear, though.
Some people are agreeing. Apparently, people remember this series.
Yeah, I've heard it a couple of times being panned here. So I don't have a lot of visual aid for my picks, but I do on this one. My first pick here is it's going to be from Mark Waid, and it's The Kingdom. Now, I thought about this. Now, Mark Waid just did a book called Ignited, which would definitely deserve to be up here. But the thing is he hasn't been the same for quite a while. He's kind of on the crazy side these days. And so I didn't want to pick on him now. I wanted to go with this was right after Kingdom Come. And if anybody ever talks about Mark Waid and how he isn't writing good stuff now, they always go back to Kingdom Come. That is his one. That's his classic. That's his thing. And so we get the continuation of this story, this time without Alex Ross. And it's not the art. It's not the art that's bad in here. It's absolutely the writing. In this one, you have Magog, or no, wait, it's not Magog, or some guy comes back. He worships Superman, finds out that Superman is a false god. So for some reason, the powers that be, like the Spectre, all the gods of the DC universe, think that the person they should empower is that crazed guy that worships Superman, only to find out he's just a regular guy. To set things right, and the way that that this dude thinks is right is to go back in time and kill Superman, like just go back different dimensions and so forth and so on. And he goes back so far that he kills the Superman that started the universe that has Kingdom Come in it. So then you get all these stories about the characters that we met in Kingdom Come and about how they're accepting the fact that they're soon going to be wiped out.
Yeah.
It's a dreadful story. Not just and it's a joyless story as well. There's one bright spot in here where a young lady works at the superhero cafe that was highlighted in Kingdom Come, but even that one tends to falter. Overall, this is one to miss. I got it at Ollie's, so at least I didn't spend a lot of money for it. And I'm glad I didn't. I bought it because I was like, I remember that. I thought I liked it. Did I like it? And then when I read it, I went, nope.
What that series showed was that, and I've got the Wizard here somewhere, or some magazine, where Mark Waid was making it clear to everybody that this is Alex Ross's baby. I was brought in, to kind of give it some structure, make it coherent. And I think Waid may have came up with Magog. That's why he was putting them in there, Gog and Magog. But yeah, that thing, and somebody in the comments said that Wade's written much worse stuff than Kingdom. To me, this was the domino effect. This was the first domino pushed. Crazy. Yeah.
Right. I wanted to point out this was back when he was at his height, the height of his powers. It's really easy to pick on him now with Champions, with his Captain America run, with Ignited. It's really easy to pick on him now. I wanted to go back to the height of his powers and point out that there were chinks in the armor.
his Superman Birthright, his Legion of Superheroes.
Well, once again, you and I disagree on that particular run, but there you go. All righty. Moving on. Let's go on. What do you have there next for us, Eric?
All right. Howler, the book you did, The Cry for Justice, may not have been possible without this beauty right here.
Woo!
No.
I think this was the book that kind of, it was sort of like DC getting in on the whole grim and gritty thing about a decade after Marvel. Now, I'm not saying this is a bad story per se, because the story itself is not, but how it fits into the DC universe is. It starts with Sue Dibney being found murdered, and after some investigation, I believe, and you guys might have to correct me because it's been a while since I've read this and I just kind of glanced over it. It appears as if Ray Palmer had killed her and then covered it up by shooting her to death. And as the story progresses, we find out little nuggets of the past of the Justice League. One being that at one point in time, Dr. Light, who had always been kind of, I'm not going to say like a cartoon villain, but never one that you really took seriously, turns out that he had raped Sue, and Zatanna had, was in the process of wiping his mind, basically taking the sadistic side out of his brain, whatever, and why she didn't just, turn him into a nice guy instead of just making him less of a villain, because that was the first plot hole that she could drive a Peterbilt through.
Oh, Eric, can I interrupt you for just a second?
Sure.
Since I got to say thank you for the super chat to a Christie, but can you read that off since it's so much more something up your alley?
First, I'm going to correct the spelling. Gabby Rivera is a national treasure.
There you go. And see, I know you could say that with all of the sincerity that it deserves.
Well, of course I can.
Thank you, Christy. Thank you. All right, keep going, man. Talk about some identity crisis.
And then we find out that Batman came in on him while they were doing this, and in a panic, she wipes out his memories of it. So as the story progresses, Tim Drake's father's murdered. And as far as, and so I'm not exactly sure how the plot progressed. And really the point is that, eventually they find out, Ray and Jean Loring, do get back together as kind of like, the way it's set up is like, it looks like a bad guy's coming after all of the superheroes, wives and girlfriends. So they get back together, I guess, ostensibly to protect her, but I guess they kind of reconcile. But as the plot unfolds, you get to the end of it, and Jean asks Ray something that just doesn't seem like a big deal, involving a note, and that's when Ray is able to put together what had happened, and that Jean had killed her. And she said, "You killed Sue Dibney," and Jean says, "I didn't mean to. I only meant to knock her out, scare her." And when she came to, she panicked and shot her. Don't know why she was carrying a gun if she wasn't intending to kill her, but that's, I guess, neither here nor there at this point. And when Ray figures it out, he drops her off at Arkham and disappears. And then the rest of the Justice League is wondering, trying to figure out, does Batman know that we wiped his mind? Has he figured it out yet? And it kind of set the stage. I said, this set the stage for, the Max Lord shooting Blue Beetle, just the really dark turn that the DC universe took. And I said, I think you can trace it back to this. Like I said, as a self-contained story, it reads well, but the implications and what it meant for the DC universe going forward, I thought was, terrible.
As an Elongated Man fan, and especially a fan of the relationship between him and Sue, I did not like that. And what was worse is what they did with them, with the cult, and the fact that let's just...
The only good that came out of that was when they became ghost detectives and at least got a a good send off, so to speak.
I remember being shocked when I walked into my comic book shop after reading it, finding out how much people hated it. I was shocked.
Did you like it?
Oh, yeah.
That's fine, man. You like what you like. You and I are gonna have some words in a little bit, but yeah, I gotta say, viscerally, it's well written. It's just a bad story, if that makes any sense whatsoever.
Yeah, Rags Morales saved a lot of that story by sending up to Meltzer saying, "I'm doing it this way," and then Meltzer saw that picture of Sue being held in Lognative's arms, and Brad said, "Okay, I'll shut up now." I kind of Rags art. I really like his art.
Breen just won the debate with Identity Crisis. What a steaming pile of crap. Well, nope. We've got a lot of steaming crap coming up. I do disagree with the next one. I was looking for my version of this. I must have lended it to somebody. I don't remember who, and I'm now really mad because I love this book. Howler, go on ahead and let's talk about a little bit of Alice Cooper.
Oh, you want me to do that? Okay,
I do. No, bring it in, man. Conflict is good TV sometimes.
All right, this book here, I got the first 2 issues. I've never really wanted to track down the third. And I think what it is that if this wasn't Neil Gaiman, this would be passable in my opinion. Okay.
Really?
This ties into Alice Cooper's album that was supposed to be the sequel to Welcome to My Nightmare. And it was The Last Temptation. This is like 1994. Neil Gaiman's on fire with Sandman. It finally took off. It found its audience. Mike Zulli, Zulli, if I'm saying that right, it is solid. I just saw him in a few Sandman issues and stuff. And you come in here and this is, it's all talk. Alice Cooper's just trying to talk this kid into joining his freak show because he'll never grow old. And I'm like, I feel like I've heard this in some fairy tale or mythology or something. It didn't feel original. It's so much talk. And by the second issue, I felt like it was predictable. The kid's looking around and everybody he's talking to has Alice Cooper makeup on and stuff. Then he's getting darker, and I think it's around Halloween. And I'm just sitting here like, here's proof. And I'm just sitting here, I'm like, it's predictable. I feel like I've heard this story before, and I could just tell it felt like Neil Gaiman was possible. It felt like, even though he may not have been, that he was just doing this for the money. It's like it wasn't his story. Somebody threw it out at him like, we got this concept album. In
all honesty, you're not too far off on that particular thing. I had the trade paperback, and in the trade paperback, it explained it. He was called by Alice Cooper saying, "Hey, I've got this album coming up, and I really would love if you kind of wrote a comic book to, And he told him the story of the album and everything. And they came up with a story. So he really was a writer for hire on this particular thing. I love this. This reminded me so much of a movie from the 1980s that I love, based on a book called Something Wicked This Way Comes. Huge fan. This story reminds me of it. I don't mind the dialogue in this. I don't mind the storytelling. I think the art is dead on for it. Incredibly good story here.
Yeah, and then like when we look at the great library of Neil Gaiman that people love, his Sandman stuff, and his Eternals. I was trying to find the Eternals he did, which was horrible. But you don't see this. You don't see The Last Temptation of Alice Cooper out there with all the Neil Gaiman stuff that they constantly put
I'm trying to get the word out. No.
It's gone.
You're right. It absolutely is the forgotten Neil Gaiman story, but it shouldn't be. It's a very it is a very entertaining, very good book in my opinion. I disagree with you completely, but you know what? That's what makes the world go around, man. Difference of opinions and such. I don't know if I've got one of those coming up for you, but yeah, that's wow. I guess I can't argue because you do make some valid points. There you go.
I'm just sticking to that.
All righty. So moving on. I don't have any visual aid for this one. It's just that, in all honesty, I gotta say, I even forgot a lot of it. But at my number, well, I guess we're up to number 5 here. Number 5, my second pick would have to be The Dark Knight 2 from Frank Miller. That book was a shock to me when I first read it, because it just you talk about showing the chinks in the armor, showing the this is definitely the weak link. I was reading Sin City at the time, and I'm loving Frank Miller's work. I'm a big fan, of course, of The Dark Knight Year One. You put Frank Miller on Batman, it is amazing. Just, absolutely fantastic. So when I read this book, I realized this is the definition of self-indulgence. The art was horrible. The art looked like he wasn't even trying. The storyline was awful. It seemed like the most unfocused story you could ever possibly have. And I kept hoping that reading through it, at some point in time, it would converge into some sort of really coherent narrative. But unfortunately, it never seemed to. It was just a hodgepodge of, wouldn't this look good in a comic book? Why don't I draw it? And then I'll try to figure out, like, he took a whole bunch of pictures out of a drawer, slapped them on a table, and decided to make a comic book out of them with some sort of loose narrative attached to it. This to me marked the, you talk about how Identity Crisis marked the downfall of DC Comics as far as the dark stories. This is the marks for me, the downfall of Frank Miller.
Well, like we said before, we went on everything. It's like anything that had, if Batman wasn't on the page, it wasn't that bad of a story, except for the Superman, Wonder Woman, bashing mountains love scene. Whatever.
Jimmy Stewart, Lex Luthor, Jimmy Stewart, Jimmy Olsen, maybe that one, not Jimmy Stewart.
But you used a better, you put it much better than I would have about it. You said it was self-indulgent. I thought Frank Miller believed his own hype, because before that came out, he said, "Oh, I've got a story, a sequel that'll blow the original away." And I was like, that's a bold statement.
Yeah, it is.
So after he had to make a few changes because of 9/11, after the book came out and everybody was like, what is this? What was that? What did I just read? He went, hey, we shook some people up with that. Like, he was still proud of it. And I'm like, is this, I was like, is he out of touch? Yeah.
It's like people are sitting there going, well, that's pure shit, Frank. And he's like, yeah, that's the shit. No, and we're not saying that. Yeah, it just wasn't good. It really wasn't. Let me get some comments here, because I've kind of been ignoring it. We've been going along. Let's see. Identity Crisis was an insult to DC's history. And talk about Joyless, says Jerry Smith. Breen won the debate. Of course, we read that one with Uncanny Z. We're going to talk about great comics. This is the worst. We're going to talk about great ones next week. His JLA was pretty good. Are those Alice Cooper covers by Dave McKeon? Yes. Yes, they are.
Yep, Dave McKeon.
Yep, I remember very well. I love this series, by the way. What would we consider Jeff Johns' worst story? Do you guys have a worst from him?
I think. Go ahead, Bert. Go ahead, Eric.
Go ahead.
All right, so we have the McKinsey brothers or something here. Come on, guys.
I think his Avengers stuff was weak, but I don't know if that was his fault or not. I enjoyed his Avengers run, but I was like, it is just not sparking. It felt like it just laid right on the ground, despite some of the cool stuff he had in there.
That was my take too. I answered that question and said, probably his Avengers run. It's not bad, but everything he's done at DC is better.
Maybe he just loves the DC characters more. Jerry Smith's agreeing with me on DK2. DK2 should have been canned, says Maverick. DK2 started my descent in despising Batman, says Martin. Damn. Anyone ever watch Meltzer's conspiracy theory show on the History Channel?
I tried.
I haven't. Still not sure which death annoys me more, Sue Dibney or Impulse. Worse than Miller's Batman and Robin. Well, I don't know if we're really going to be talking about that one today. Let's say, hey to Dalton, how's it going? And all right, that leads us into your next. Your next. This is the worst for you, right?
I guess. Let me
Derek,
look.
Derek. not all about you, Howler. Come on, man.
Oh, sorry, man.
God, are we up to number 4 already?
We went through these pretty quickly.
I tell you what, I guess when you're talking bad, it doesn't take as long.
It's shit. Let's move on.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with the surprise of no one. One More Day.
One More Day. I'm sorry. I thought we were talking. No, go on.
Now, going by the criteria of this, as far as like what is the great stuff that J. Michael Straczynski's done, for me it was his Thor run. I thought that was excellent, and his Spider-Man run I was never particularly a fan of. However, there was an issue, I believe it was 542, was after, I guess, right after the Civil War stories had been told, and his identity was public knowledge, and the Kingpin had, I guess, I can't remember if he'd ordered, Aunt May shot or if she was shot and it was traced back to him, but he was in prison at the time, and Spider-Man went to the prison, called him out, took off his mask, and something he'd never been able to do before, he just, in the quote Anglin, he beat the teetotal in hell out of the Kingpin, and he was never in the fight. And he's holding him up and he goes, "Just so you know, I'm going to kill you." I said, you're not going to know when it's coming, but it's coming, and I'm going to shoot my webs down your throat and suffocate you, and there's nothing you can do about it. And he basically leaves the Kingpin a quivering mass of jello as he takes off. And to me, that was after seeing what Bendis had done had started to do to him already, and it's like, and then now looking at what was to come, this was really the last badass Spider-Man moment. And then a couple issues later, in order to save Aunt May's life, Mephisto offers to make a deal with him, his marriage or his aunt. Now, this wasn't unprecedented. Mephisto, for whatever reason, likes to screw around with superhero relationships. He'd done it with Norrin Radd and Shala Bal. But this, why the Lord of Hell would even notice, a street level, guy that swings around the city on webs to make a deal like that was just cartoonishly stupid. And I said it was just so, Joe Quesada, who didn't think that a science nerd should be married to a supermodel and wanted to take him back to the, Lee Ditko days. It was, I say, it's something that, there's not many things that most fans agree on, but most fans agree that One More Day is shit.
Yeah, I have never heard anybody say a good thing about it. I've never read it and have never had. It's like sometimes if you hear something so bad, you just have to check it out. This, I've never had the urge.
At Marvel, you can't be married, you can't smoke, but deals with the devil are fine. And wasn't it Mary Jane? I've got like 2-3 issues left. I have never touched them since I read them the first time. We're going on like 13 years, if I'm remembering right. I mean, it's been a while.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And it still hits like yesterday. But wasn't it Mary Jane that agreed to the deal?
I thought it was. I think they both did, but
okay.
It's weird. Like I said, this another one. A quick aside: the Spider-Man annual from 2001 that is Howard Mackey's last story on the character. They basically had Mary Jane leave him so they could have Peter Parker go back to the hard luck loser, kid. And
they devolved the character completely.
Yeah, I said, and that wasn't enough the first time. They go to all the trouble to put them back together just to do it again. And it was almost like, if I didn't know better, I think it was like almost personal with Quesada. But I mean, he did a lot of good things at Marvel during that tenure. But God damn, One More Day almost wipes all of it out.
Yeah. Let's see. Maranya Mephisto's, I believe, did that recently with Doctor Strange and Clea. Thank you, Mark Wade. Not. Comic Works. Hello. How you doing, Comic Works? Darkness saying, didn't I win One More Day in your auction? I wouldn't call that winning, sir. it was from VENKMAN's collection. So anyway. But there you go. Yeah, I haven't heard anything good from this thing. So my pick. Oh wait, nope. It's not all about me. It's Howler Mouse's turn. What do you have next up?
Are we sure? No.
Yes. This time it's you, man. It's all about you.
This is why Howler streams alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you look on here, if you see my viewpoint of it, when Eagleteen is talking, he's looking at me. But
he's just staring at you in the right-hand corner too.
Yeah, exactly. There we go. So you pulled Alice Cooper on me, so I'm gonna have to pick one of these. So I'm gonna go with the big name here. Right? I'm gonna go with Alan Moore. All right.
Okay.
All right. Now this particular series here, I've been with since the beginning. Right. Going back to like 2001 or something. This is League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. I'm kind of booking it here, you know. But you know, Alan Moore wrote some great one-shots here in hardback, right, about the son of the daughter of Nemo, right? He's written like a great. He made Mr. Hyde this great character in the book. He made the Invisible Man creepy. I mean, it felt like they walked out, you know, out of those great novels and stuff, right? So he ends his career officially. This is supposed to be the retirement. Him and Kevin O'Neill are retiring, and they're giving us our last League of Extraordinary Gentlemen book. And it's this piece of garbage that I cannot finish called The Tempest. I can't finish it. The way I did my comic book order, I got them in 2 shipments, you know, so I have the whole thing. I couldn't stop. And they're absolutely horrible. He's trying to, it's like he talked to his daughter saying, you know, I know everything about the 1800s and I know a lot about from the 50s to the 80s, but I don't know what them damn kids like today. And she threw out social justice or something, and he's trying to like awkwardly put it through here. Oh, and it's like hearing your grandpa look at you and be like, "Hey, groovy," you know.
I made it through issue 1 and went, "Okay, I'm done."
I did 3 of them. I'm like, he's pulling something here. He's making a statement about comics today, and it's preachy. And I'm like, he's really doing it. He's really going for it. And I just hate that he went out on this, you know.
Yeah, that's not a good one to go out on. Oh, thanks to Darkness Come saying good show. $5 each when Maranya says go. That's that you'll hear that. Go kids, show up at the auctions if you haven't done it already on Saturday night. I actually started titling them Saturday Night Live auctions. Maybe I'll get some of that coming in a little bit. But yeah, I try to have some great things there. But that's where that comes from, by the way. That's a good one. Thank you very much for the super chat. Darkness Comes. I like that one. That's pretty cool.
Well, at least Maranya hasn't given any of us a 2-minute warning on our ramblings.
There you go. Yeah, if we're talking too long, Maranya pops in. 2-minute warning. Stop. Maverick, okay, this is to Maverick. MX True, they can't make a difference between a loser and someone who has struggle and fight.
I was on the spot.
We're gonna have to talk about Spider-Man sometime.
Yeah.
Tempest is not Moore's worst book. No, it's not. As a matter of fact, and you do have a visual aid, thank you. We are up to number 2, which would make my number 1 worst pick. From a worst story from a great writer is also Alan Moore, and it's a story called Lost Girls. I heard about this. This is not a famous story. This is an infamous story. So I was like, no way, no freaking way this could actually come from a brilliant mind like Alan Moore. Alan Moore made me I mean, I was always picking and choosing from different characters, but I remember liking Swamp Thing, but Alan Moore made me a Swamp Thing fan. This guy is freaking brilliant. She's 2-minute warning the freaking host. Come on, man. Yeah. So anyway, this story right here is all about the sexual exploits of Wendy from Peter Pan, Alice from Alice in Wonderland, and Dorothy Gale. Now imagine the most it's this is
gonna be fun. Go for it, man.
Okay, so it's about mature subjects, but it's not written maturely. Like so Dorothy Gale during the Twister fantasizes and masturbates thinking about the farmhand she calls the Cowardly Lion, the Tin Man, and the Scarecrow. I'm not freaking kidding. That actually happens in the book. The captain is a kidnapping rapist. When it comes, Captain Hook in this one is a kidnapping rapist, and Wendy, of course, has sex with Peter
while her brothers watch.
Yeah, it's so freaking bad. This book it's horribly written. And it really does. It feels like a junior high student's poor fan fiction. It's about at that level. You can't even say, well, you know, at least it's an erotic. No, nothing. Okay. All righty. There you go. Is that a threesome? I have one thing to say to England. Stop. All right. There you go. You get the point. It's a horrible book. It's god awful. I never read it. I think it has a very limited run because most stores wouldn't carry it. You know what? I say good, not because of the subject matter, but because of the way it was handled. It was just written poorly. It's not a good book. Can't recommend it. Bad Alan Moore. I know you're watching.
That's how he ended up getting his wife. She's the one that draws it. They were just cohorts when they started this. And they ended up getting married as they proceeded through the story to get it out over a decade.
Yeah, it's just freaking out there. No, but that's not even the worst part. The worst part, if I remember correctly, is that Alice was 14.
No.
Right? No, I thought she was. I thought she was 14 in her story.
Now, maybe. Okay, I get what you're saying. You're talking about the flashback stuff in modern day. In the modern day, the story takes place the night before World War.
She does flash back, and she has sex as a
with one of her dad's colleagues. Yeah.
Right. It's okay. Yeah. There you go. That's what I was. It's not like I've read it. I read it maybe a half a time. Like I read okay, I'm done. You know, it did not take long for me to shut that book down.
I'll tell you that I've had this book for a couple months, and I have to read it in small doses, take a shower, talk to my fiance, let her know that let her remind me I'm normal. It's got some chapters in there where like I will never revisit them again. Never.
It's god awful. It's just no. I'm there you go. Okay, you know what? Let's move on. Okay, so so we knew we were gonna do 10, and so we each picked 3 stories, and we figured, okay, we gotta pick one that is so bad all 3 of us without hesitation can agree that this is the worst story.
Let's see if anybody can guess. No.
Okay. The worst story from a famous writer, and it has to be somebody who has a story that's great. You could point to the past and go, oh, they have that, or they have that, and it's universally loved. Can you guess what it is? I think some people already have. I saw it in the chat. Some people already know. And it's not Akbar. That's the hint. No, you've got a visual aid, so I'll let you do it. There you go. Pop that puppy up. Let's get that in there. The number 1 worst story from a famous writer. Yeah, we're going to pick on Frank Miller again. God, awful art. Look at that. Holy Toledo. Who is that? Because that's not Black Canary. That is, I know, right? It's like the coronavirus. Every time you touch it, you got to wash my hands now. It's, So, Eric, you've read this story.
Yeah, I don't think I made it to the end of it, though.
No, everybody did.
I haven't. I in all honesty, I have no idea did it even make it to issue 12?
No, they didn't finish it, but still, I think I made it to like issue 4 or 5, and then I've gotten rid of it twice. I just got this because it's a variant cover that was like $2. I bought a collection recently because I've been doing that to replenish so I could do these auctions and everything. And it came in a collection. I couldn't sell it for $1. Yeah. I mean, it's god awful. I mean, it's amazing. Jerry Smith. I'm the goddamn Batman.
And didn't he beat up Robin in the story?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean,
that eat rats.
I mean, that's the idea that Batman would punch a Robin. That would never happen in a Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, wait a second. Yeah, Tom. Thank you so much. You and Crazy Batman from Asbar are the only two people that ever freaking had Batman punching a Robin seriously. Well, no, there is that one with the, the
I said
meme.
that's the series in a nutshell. Whap, whap.
What was the book that Batman peed himself? I believe that was a Kevin Smith book. My goodness gracious, this book is bad. Wonder Woman's horrible in it. Frank Miller never returned from Sin City. I've said that multiple times. I'm going to continue to say it until it becomes a meme. It's going to be Frank Miller stuck in Sin City. He just never returned. And he did some really good Sin City stories, but after he came back, he writes every character as if they're a citizen of Sin City. And that's the big problem. It's not like he used to write noir stories. It's what made Daredevil good. Batman Year One. But what a fail! What a fail! Please, Howler, go on.
My interpretation. I remember the last page I read of whatever issue that is. Right. Green Lantern walks in, and Batman and Robin and the whole room are all dressed in yellow, and they're sipping lemonade. And I'm sitting here like, I interpret that Frank Miller is like, look at me, DC is paying me to completely crap and piss all over their characters. That's how I read that. He made Batman just treat everybody like a joke, or I think he had sex with the Black Canary on a dock. And I'm just sitting here I'm like, what's going on here? What's the plot? What's the meaning? Yeah.
After they brutally beat up a whole bunch of people in the bar, they have sex on a dock while people are burning inside said bar. So, yeah, it's ridiculous. This book, according to Comixology, it got to 10 issues, and you pick them up for 99 cents a piece.
I swear Frank Miller was laughing while he was writing this. Laughing.
I know. You think, okay, Eric, you have us talking about this with energetic hatred towards it. Do you think it's possible that Frank Miller wrote this bad on purpose?
God, it's hard to say because he had bad Frank Miller writing at DC has a lot of company.
Yeah, that's true.
At Dark Knight 2, I don't remember Dark Knight 3 if that was any good or not, but yeah, this was, I don't know. Maybe this was somebody that goes, it doesn't matter what I do, I'm going to make a shit ton of money, and maybe let's see how far I can, let's see what will they not let me get away with, and apparently the answer was nothing.
So, man, we have another top 10 to talk about. I think we may have to make it a top 10, but we got to break it down because we've got to talk about these artists and writers that fell from grace, where we think it happened and why, and what's their worst, what's their best. But Frank, I think you're right about something here. I just don't see the passion. I don't see the caring in all honesty. And as I said before, the self-indulgence, and that is possibly his biggest crutch. I mean, think about Superman Year One. Did y'all read that?
I'm trying to get through it.
Hunk of shit.
Yeah, it's a Navy SEAL. Here's the deal. Here's how they tried to save Batman. This All-Star Batman, and I think maybe they're trying to do this with the Year One. They tried to say that it wasn't. It was a prequel to The Dark Knight Returns. This is Batman meeting Robin, and this is why Robin goes nuts and hates him in DK2. They were really pulling some stuff out of their butt, and it didn't go anywhere. So the Superman we're reading, I guess, I mean, I've just got it to where he's found Atlantis, being part of the Navy SEALs training for him or whatever. He's found Atlantis. Anyway, so I think they're trying to say that that's that Superman from his Dark Knight Returns universe. This is how they're trying to save this stuff. I don't know what he's doing. I think he just doesn't have the passion. I think he's a recovered alcoholic who's had a lot of health problems. And I think he's just looking for a purpose. I mean, I hate to be, I don't want to get personal, but it's his work is reflecting something miserable. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, his work has been miserable. It really has been. So that definitely carries weight. But this story alone, I've got to tell you, I remember reading this, and there were some people at the time who was praising it. They were talking that, oh, this is revolution. This is absolutely, yeah, that story.
Fans.
Maybe it's because the art on the inside definitely looks better than that freaking cover, which I got to tell you, as much as Frank Miller's writing has hit bottom, his art is just it tanked. But I remember at the time, people were just talking to me like, oh, no, I like that. It's pretty good. It's a different take, blah, blah, blah. And I was reading it going, what are you talking about? It's not Batman. You could say whatever you want. And I've seen a lot of different incarnations of Batman over the time. I'm not bothered when we get a different movie version or something like that. I've seen it. It's okay. We've seen different, but this was the other Batman's always kind of held the same standards. And, you know, that it's like you always have to, if you're going to do a different Spider-Man, just make sure that great power comes with great responsibility. He's a hero about that. Batman will always be somebody who preserves life, which is why a lot of people like, hold on with that, you know, whole Ben Affleck killing people all over the place kind of thing. I just didn't see Batman at all in All-Star Batman, and that was my biggest problem with it. No. Any other?
Yeah, there was no saving it.
There absolutely wasn't. His Spirit movie was pretty damn bad. Funny thing, we were just talking about the Spirit on Extreme Movie Shows. We did the top 10 movies of 2008, and it was on Venkman's list. And in all honesty, the Spirit, it's a guilty pleasure of mine.
Let me show you something.
Okie dokie.
Yeah, me too.
There we go. Yeah, it's a guilty pleasure. It's incredibly campy, but it's so much fun. It really is.
Well, it's got Nick Fury and the Black Widow in it, you know.
Let's see. Can we lead off with Bendis, says LK. His fall off is something special. Well, what'll happen is the three of us are going to get together and we'll talk about, and what it has to be. It has to have the farthest fall is going to be the highest or the lowest number. Like, you know, somebody who did really great and then just turned to complete shit has got to be number one. So we'll figure something out. Let's see. What's the panel's thought on Ronin by Frank Miller? Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it's groundbreaking.
Yeah, it really was. In my opinion, it was way ahead of its time.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the things that made Frank Miller stand out. What about you, Eric? Did you read it?
I've never read it.
I highly recommend it, man. Seriously. I do know for a fact you can get it for like $13 on Amazon. I know because it's in my cart.
Yeah, man. If you get to read that, take your time and just enjoy it.
Yeah, it really is. It's back when he was hungry. On Saturday, I found out I can't do auction when my girlfriend is next to me. I really wanted those Detroit League books. Yeah, I understand how that is. I'm married and have been for quite a while. It's like you can be a guy and you can act like a guy, and then the wife comes in and you have to act like a married person. Let's see. Serious question. Any other good writers out there other than Jeff Johns, Scott Snyder, Donny Cates, or Jonathan Hickman? Venditti. Venditti's Hawkman. Shoot.
Tomasi.
And there it goes.
There it goes. I f***ed it up. Sorry. Venditti's Man with Mason Wings. Hopefully we'll be able to save that. Is one of the best books on the shelf right now. Tomasi's a lot of fun, and he's doing detective. Tinian's doing good things with Batman these days. Anyone else here remember Miller's first Batman story from DC Xmas special? Yes, because I've got it in leather bound on that Frank Miller special there. Mm-hmm. Do you have that book?
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the big books throughout my videos that, like, there's a fire, I'm going to save that. My grandmother actually bought that for me after my mom was telling her, but wouldn't let me.
Wow.
So I went to her. Yeah. So that's what, that book stays right where I can grab it.
I had that book and it was in great condition. And then my kids got a guinea pig and the guinea pig ate it. It started, you can actually see where he ate the top corner. I come in, I'm like, what the? They think it's cute.
It's because that's when Miller was tasty.
There you go. We got, Crazy Steve. Oh yeah, that's Linkara calls Batman from Asbar Crazy Steve. Sean Gordon Murphy is a good writer. Do you guys do videos of the best or favorite stories ever? We haven't yet. This is only our second top 10. And
I've got a couple. Yeah.
But yeah, by all means, go over to Howler Mouse, check his out. And we're going to do the top 10s as well. I've done that kind of stuff. Like I did a video not too long ago about, I think I called it Great Batman Stories Only True Batman Fans Know, because everybody mentions The Dark Knight and Year One and so forth. I wanted to dive a little deeper, you know, because as a comic book fan, you read everything, you know. There's one issue. I don't remember the number, but I'm looking for it so I can include it. It's if anybody knows this one, please, by all means. It's a story about a criminal, and all I remember is I never dropped the gun. That's something he always says, and it's about his life as a criminal. And that's all I remember. But I remember loving it when it first came out, but I just can't find it anymore. Let's see. LK saying, does the panel have any terrible Warren Ellis books?
I have it wrote down right here. Ruins. That's the one I was trying to find. You know, Ruins.
The Marvel book.
Yeah, it was a very dark take on Marvels. It was 2 issues.
Yep.
And Warren Ellis is very hit or miss with me. Either he's a genius or he's not. I have a ton of his stuff I love. Ruins just made me like, you know, I can't give this to certain people if they're on depressants. You know,
yeah, that is really bad as far as that's concerned. I've got it in a, I've got the Marvel's companion trade paperback, and it's got Code of Honor, it's got Ruins, Tales from the Block, and so forth. Let's see. The Garcia Lopez on X-Men Legion story is beautiful. Okay. I made it. You're still alive. All right, cool. Did you time travel? Oh, you're still live. Okay. I totally read that wrong. Hey, yep, we're still here. We just wrapped up our top 10. The worst being Batman, All-Star Batman. Yeah, it's god awful, man. Well, Frank, where you come from? Right now, we're just answering questions from the chat and everything. I thought that would be all right. I hope you guys don't mind.
I'm down.
Because I also think that this panel would be awesome just to answer a whole bunch of questions. Because you've got a cumulative 5 years worth of comic collecting between the three of us. 5 years. It's amazing.
We were around when the first Mark Waid Champions team was formed.
Oh my gosh. I remember starting comic collecting with America Chavez. It was my very first comic. I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. Woo!
Oh God, you make me want to spit.
Built my channel, baby. I'm telling you, I say that. When I say that, that is the absolute truth.
Do you know what I learned recently? That all this time I thought I had a complete set, and there was a 12th issue.
Yeah,
I'm absolutely crestfallen.
What?
Because
I'll have 11.
They only printed 12 of those.
I know. I thought there was only 11, so I had those, and I even tweeted it out. I said, you know, beaming with pride. And no, I don't have number 12.
Yeah. There's more than 5 years here. We've got gray in our beards, except for Eric, who is freaking ageless.
No, there's all kinds of gray in there.
Yeah. Freaking Fred Flintstone looking mother. I'm going to stay on that freaking train, by the way. Let's see. We got a question here. One of your favorite Marvel stories of all time. Okay. Let's start with you, Breen, since you've got all sorts of history.
You know, the one I go back to the most is probably the Avengers Defenders War.
Nice.
Yeah, I said I'm sure everybody on this panel's read it. But it was like one of the first major crossovers. You know, because Englehart was writing both books. The Defenders were a relatively new title at the time, and you know they had the Hulk, Namor, Doctor Strange, Silver Surfer. Hawkeye had left the Avengers because we found out that, you know, Scarlet Witch loved the Vision and not him. So he joined up with them, and they had the Valkyrie. So they were, you know, And they had they set it up. The first like 4 or 5 issues of the 6-issue series were split off into 2 battles per issue, and they were all fighting over this thing called the Evil Eye. And it was kind of interesting. The Avengers were the long established team, but the Defenders won all the fights. But if you think about it, it made sense because they were, seriously more powerful than the Avengers.
Yeah. Well, considering it consists of people that the Avengers fought alone. Like the Hulk was at one point in time an adversary of the entire team of Avengers. So was, Silver Surfer's got the power cosmic. Yeah, of course, that makes sense.
Yeah, the Hulk was a founding member of both teams,
Yeah. And but and the story, I mean, by the time they realized that of course that they were on the same side and blah blah blah. I mean, the ending was kind of anticlimactic, but that really wasn't the point.
Yeah.
Putting getting to see the kids argue like who would win between Hulk and Thor. And that was one of the better battles that they had over the years. And so it answered a lot of fan questions, and like the like Hawkeye beat Iron Man, but he had to cheat like a son of a buck to do it. And so, but it was just fun.
And it was during the time where a crossover was still an event. You know what I mean? Like, it was more of the spectacle of the Avengers versus the Defenders that's happening. But it had they have some payoffs for the fans in that story at the same time because it was a thing back then.
Really, up to that point, the only crossovers you got was Justice League and Justice Society once a year in Justice League of America. But a lot of times they would just split up into, well, that's actually kind of how they did it in Avengers Defenders. But, this just seemed like more of a, cool story than any of the crossovers did in Justice League.
So how about you, Howler? What would you say is one of your favorite Marvel stories of all time?
Well, I'm going to go with the first thing that popped in my head when this said was it's an Avengers story from, I think, 78, 79 called the Yesterday Quest. And it's Quicksilver and Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch centric. Mark Grunwald, Ralph Macchio, John Byrne, just knocking it out of the park with this great big story, like going back to their origins. And they pull in the High Evolutionary, one of my favorite characters from all time since the People Breeders, in the 60s and stuff. I got to read that. And the Yesterday Quest, I think it's only like 3 issues. They're bringing Mordred, the Beast, and Wonder Man are right there going at it. They bring out the Knights of Wundagore. The Beast from the X-Men was a member of the Avengers at this time, and he got to ride one of those mechanical floating steeds that they had, to fly around. The Beast found some people that he could like just blend in with, which was amazing. And you had like a little bit of a lead up to it where souls were being put into marionette puppets and all sorts of things were going on. Then you find this is also where you found out who their true father was, and it was Magneto. I think Hickman undid that story a little bit a couple years ago. But the Yesterday Quest, and they actually did a X-Men cartoon from the 90s. Actually did an episode pulling from that story.
That's really cool. My choice, I at first I felt kind of embarrassed because it popped in and it's a very famous Marvel story, and I was thinking, yeah, but I want to kind of challenge everybody. But you know what? No, I won't. It's Craven's Last Hunt. I would.
No, that's excellent.
It's by far, I think, my favorite Spider-Man story. And it's just one that I could read constantly. I've got the same hardcover that I bought when it first came out. It's actually got a $15 price tag on it when I remember going, wow, it's expensive, but I'm going to get it. And now that's what you might get for a little thin trade paperback. I think it's, to me, it's the perfect out. Craven's dead. And he has been for 30 or 40 years now. You don't need to revive him, guys. He had the perfect out. Yeah, I would go with that one. That is an amazing story.
The other one, I love that story. Yeah, I'm sorry, man, not to interrupt.
Go on ahead, Dad.
Yeah, I love that story. I just love that story. That thing came out. All 3 of those Spider-Man books came out a week apart. And I could not believe Mike Zeck put out the quality he did. So 2 or 3 classic covers that have been homaged. And he had little cheats in there. Like I remember the splash page where he had like a naked Peter like that big on the page, you know, where he, you know. But excellent, man. I could not believe that. That was an event. It was great to be around getting those off the racks back in the day.
And the other one that popped in my mind that, and we don't have to talk long about this one. It's just, I realized I've talked about it forever and a day because it's my second favorite Marvel story of all time. It's Avengers story called the Corvex Saga.
Yeah.
It's just, I could read that every freaking day and I'd be okay. Let's see. I love that splash in the Yesterday Quest finale with Quinjet, says Uncanny Z. According to Marvel's TSR Advanced Game, Hulk and Thor are both unearthly strength. Thing is classed as monstrous strength. Oh, I remember that. I remember that game. One level down from them. That answers who's stronger, according to TSR. Well, that brings to mind a 3-issue JLA JSA crossover where the villains on Earth 1 and 2 come together, Ultra Humanite, to eliminate Earth 1.
Ultra Humanite.
Picture. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got that. It's like 196 to 198 or something. Yeah, I got those.
Uncanny Z, best Marvel story is Dark Phoenix, hands down. You guys are fake fans. That I would go with you if that story has not been watered down. Not so much ruined because it's still there. It's still its own story by itself, but it's been watered down by what's come after.
And somebody's got to represent the rest of the other 25 letters of the alphabet.
There you go. Yeah. Let's see. Beyond a Shadow of the Doubt, I love the 2006 Marvel Civil War. As a teenager, it was the first event I bought as it came out. And Geek Hero, I think that really makes a difference, actually. Stories that came out when you were a teenager or when you were just getting into it, I think that can affect you. I mean,
no question about it.
Honestly, we probably have over a century worth of comic book reading between the three of us. And at this point,
we barely need the third.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we probably would have had almost that without Howler being around, but we certainly appreciate it because you're a hell of a lot smarter on this stuff than I am, or you have a better memory. Come on, England team. One New Day is tied with Avengers 200 for best Marvel story overall. Yes, and somebody won Avengers number 200 in an auction this last weekend that was signed by George Perez himself. Yeah. I want to see
that was for you, E.
There you go. Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. All righty there, guys. Thank you very much for the questions and everything. And guys, Howler, Eric, thanks for doing a top 10. I like these videos. I think it's always fun to do it. Lists are fun. And sharing books that we like and even sharing books that we don't is a lot of fun as well. So once again, guys, thank you very much for hanging out. Thank you for continuing the conversation as always. And to all of you, all of the true believers, as I say, thank you very, very much for watching. Have a good night.
Good night, kids.